Ilé Ifẹ̀ ni mo ti bẹ̀rẹ̀ ilé ìwé àkọ́kọ́ mi ní ọgbọ́n Ẹ̀yìndì. Ìlàrẹ́ ni mò ń gbé ńgbà yẹn. Nígbà tí mo kúrò ńbẹ̀ mo lọ sí Ọ̀rànmíyàn Memorial Grammar School, the greatest OMGS. Ìgbà tí mo kúrò ní OMGS ni mo ṣẹ̀ṣẹ̀ wá padà sí ibi abínibí tó ń jẹ́ Ìjẹ̀bú. Ṣùgbọ́n ìpilẹ̀ṣẹ̀ mi Ilé Ifẹ̀ ni. Ọmọ Ifẹ̀ ni mí tọkàntara. Kábíyèsí bàbá. Kábíyèsí. Ẹ jọ̀ọ́ ẹ ní bínú sí mi ní lè sọ Yorùbá láti fi mi ní lè lo èdè Yorùbá láti fi sọ ọ̀rọ̀ yìí torí pé àwọn igi làǹdí òyìnbó kan wà ńbẹ̀ tí kò ní yé wa púpọ̀ tí n bá ní kí n fi èdè òyìnbó tú, ṣùgbọ́n màá gbìyànjú láti fi Yorùbá díẹ̀ sí nígbà tí n bá deliver lecture náà tán. Wọ́n ní remittances, wọ́n ní ṣé ó ṣeé ṣe ká lò ó gẹ́gẹ́ bí okùnfà ìlọsíwájú fún ilẹ̀ Nàìjíríà. Kí ni wọ́n ń pè ní remittances? Tí àwọn bàbá bá gbà mí láàyè máa sọ wípé òun ni wọ́n ń pè ní gbà fún múrí nílé, gbàdà wá ní dá padà sóko. Ẹ̀rí ń sìn reason tí gbàdà òfin dá padà sóko torí remittances ń flow lọ sí Nàìjíríà ni. It doesn't flow out of Nigeria. Nigeria doesn't give anybody money. So, specifically, kindly allow me just a few minutes to look at the basic components of remittances. Specifically, what do we call remittances? Remittances is the flow of financial resources from the diaspora into Nigeria. And it is the use of official channels, merely official channels, to transmit money. When we say diaspora, in the definition of diaspora today, even Benin Republic is diaspora to Nigeria. Why do I say that? Quite a number of Nigerians emigrate from Nigeria to Benin Republic. Quite a number of Nigerians emigrate from Nigeria to Ghana. I was in the Gambia for a while. I've lived in Senegal. I've lived in the United States before moving back to the Gambia, then to South Africa. So based on my lived experience, I could see that Nigerians live almost anywhere and everywhere in the world. So when we discuss diaspora, as far as Nigerian context is concerned, almost every country outside of Nigeria is a diaspora. So this discussion is going to fuse in that dynamics by considering all other countries as diaspora to Nigeria. I'm sorry, it may not be appropriate, but for the sake of this discussion, that is the best way to handle it. And you see it in a short while. It may interest us to know that we cannot discuss remittances without discussing migration, because it is the migrants that remit money back home. Home in this case is Nigeria. So when we say flow of money from overseas to Nigeria, it is done predominantly by migrants. Recent statistics have it that about 28% of global geography lives in countries where they were not born. 28%. They live in localities where they were not born. That is through migration. We cannot go into the details of that. But what is original to us is that people move from one place to the other. And movement of people is historical. Even it started in the days of, even before the scriptures were written. Yeah, migration is as old as human creation. So it is not a new thing. But what is new in migration today is the political aspect of migration. It is the political aspect of migration that has tilted the originality of migration, whereby they now see, the natural occurrence of migration as something untoward. Because wherever you are today, Nigeria is so unique. I'll get to it. Nigeria is the only country, except for political connotation of migration, Nigeria is so unique in that Nigeria accepts anyone and everyone. If you hear Ghana must go, or Mauritania must go, or Niger must go, all those kind of things, they were infused by a political connotation. I am yet to see the literature that suggests that Nigerians fight against people because they are not Nigerians. I'm yet to see that literature. I'm yet to see it. I have not seen it. Even as much as people are hungry, as much as people are poor, as much as people are experiencing one socioeconomic hardship or the other, they still do not have any kind of social rife or strife against non-Nigerians. It has never been documented in the history of Nigeria. But that is not the discussion for today. Now, let me say this quickly. As far as migration in Africa is concerned, there are documented evidence to suggest that about 58% of African migrants migrate within Africa. 58% of everyone that moves within Africa, 58% of Africans that leave their place of birth to go and live somewhere else, they live within Africa. And out of that figure, Egypt, South Africa, Cote d'Ivoire, they receive about 62% of those migrants. As single country. But when you zoom in the aggregate number of migrants per region, it is East Africa that receives the most. This is what I mean. African migrants in South Africa, they're about 1.31%. In Egypt, they're about 2.8%. In South Africa, they're about 1.2%. In Cote d'Ivoire, they're about 1.1%. So if you aggregate it, these three countries, they have about, in aggregate terms, they have close to 10%. But East Africa alone accounts for almost 70% of total African migrants. East Africa. Now, when we talk of remittances, receipt of remittances, when we look at it per capita, per GDP, that is the amount of the aggregate income of a country in a whole year, what percentage of it is constituted by remittances? Somalia receives the highest. It forms the highest of the GDP, which is about 35%. Followed by South Sudan, which is about 30%. The Gambia is also about 30%. Lesotho is about 21%. And Comoros is about 20% of GDP. In Nigeria, it is about 4% of GDP. And in Egypt, it is about 7.8% of GDP. It is very high in Egypt because today, Egypt is the highest recipient, receives the largest volume of recipients in Africa, followed by Nigeria. So when you look at the volume of remittances that is received, as I said, Egypt receives the highest, which is about 20.6 billion US dollars. Nigeria follows with Nigeria is the 10th in the world, and Nigeria receives about 17.2 billion US dollars every year from remittances. Now, China is the global highest recipient of remittances, and they receive about 83.2 billion US dollars, followed by India, which is about 60 billion dollars, and France is the 7th in the world. They receive about 24.5 billion US dollars. Germany is the 9th in the world. They receive about 17.9 billion US dollars. Egypt and Nigeria alone account for more than 56% of all the remittances that flow to the whole of Africa. Egypt and Nigeria alone, they receive in volume more than 56% of all remittances that flow to Africa. Now, please permit me to look at the sending countries. Where do these remittances come from? For so very many years, for decades, United States alone is the largest source of remittances to the rest of the world. As of 2022, United States, remittances from United States was 68 billion. However, the Middle East has more than double remittances from United States, in that the UAE alone contributed 42.2 billion, and Saudi Arabia as a single country contributed 34.5 billion US dollars in remittances. Saudi Arabia alone. So if you look at the UAE and Saudi Arabia, you will see that their remittances is more than double that of the United States. Now, in Africa, the highest level of remittances flows from South Africa and Angola. And also we have some considerable amount of money that comes from Mozambique and Namibia. I'm sorry to say this. Remittances does not flow out of Nigeria. Nigeria is one of the lowest countries. Nigeria records one of the lowest outflow of remittances. Nigeria is in the category of Seychelles and Zambia in terms of remittances. So, you will permit me to say that Nigeria does not give anybody money. What are the usefulness of remittances? This is quite complex. It's complex because recently I heard somebody saying that, one of our technocrats saying that the Naira is so undervalued because remittances does not flow into the banks. I was disappointed. I was disappointed because the amount of money that is transmitted outside of the formal sector globally is less than 2%. So for a Reserve Bank governor to come out openly and say that the Naira is so weak because remittances does not flow into the bank, somebody like me will ask him, where does it flow to? So when people transmit money, do they carry it in sack of bags? I mean, how do they transmit it? What channel of transmission do they use? Anyway, that is a discussion for another day. For government, remittances is so important, essentially in countries whereby remittances contribute very hugely to their GDP, like Somalia, like South Sudan, like the Gambia, like Sierra Leone and a few other countries. It is so critical that money keeps flowing into those economies, because if remittances ceases, then there may be very huge stress on the fiscals. For household, there are so many documented studies to suggest that remittances are used in East African countries mainly for farming. And that is why they are very good in farming. Most of the money that they receive from overseas goes into farming. The same thing in Cote d'Ivoire, the same thing in Sierra Leone. Unfortunately, in Nigeria, remittances are consumed. Remittances are not invested. I did a study recently for the United Nations whereby I investigated the importance of remittances to households. I specifically look at the importance of remittances to education, healthcare, and use of technology. We discover that most of the money that flows into Nigeria as a country are consumed on technology, not on anything that generates anything. And that is possibly one of the reasons why the per capita unit of remittances in Nigeria is close to zero. However, per capita unit of remittances in countries like Comoros, like Sierra Leone, like Kenya, like Ethiopia, like Somalia, is about 14%. Because when they collect this money, they invest them. When they collect this money, they put them into certain things that would generate something. That is, we call them economic activities. It is not consumed immediately, but in Nigeria, it is consumed immediately. Possibly, there was another study that suggested that remittances in Nigeria, that a lot of money in Nigeria, even if people are hungry in Nigeria, they will still prefer to buy airtime for their phones, to buy data, even if they're hungry. I think, our Royal Father, that is something that we all have to think about. Possibly we need to reorientate our people. That the 1 cent you invest today may eventually generate 2 rand for you tomorrow to buy a cell phone. Instead of using what you have now, instead of consuming what you have now immediately, if you invest it, it will generate what you're going to consume later. It is called delayed enjoyment. Now, to conclude this discussion, I would like to draw our attention to some things. What are the possible implications of remittances? From a professional standing, I would say that migration, and by extension, remittances, is a zero sum for Nigeria. Why do I say zero sum? It means somebody gains everything and somebody loses everything. The people that receive remittances in Nigeria, they do not gain anything. But the senders of the remittances, they gain something in the form of goodwill, nothing more. Unfortunately, that is the way it is. That is why I say it's zero sum for Nigeria. And I will explain that further. Remittances in Nigeria is a big leakage in the macroeconomic fundamentals. There is in the fiscus. That is the way our fiscus is structured. Our budgetary allocations are structured in such a way that the leakages are so much that the effect of remittances are not even felt in any way. There are too many economic leakages. Ideally, like in the case of Somalia, government can trace specifically where remittances goes every year. Because they develop the capability. A country as poor in our understanding as Somalia, they develop a capability to monitor how inflows of remittances are used. The same thing in Kenya. They can tell you specifically where remittances go. In Côte d'Ivoire, they can tell you specifically where remittances go. In Sierra Leone, they can tell you specifically where remittances go. But in Nigeria, nobody knows where remittances go. The only thing they know is the money comes in, and immediately the money comes into the account, people withdraw it, and that is the end of it. The financial regulatory system is so weak that a trace of intermediation, financial intermediation, is so very, very porous. And that is why we say that there are too many leakages in the macroeconomic fundamentals. The fiscus is designed and structured in a very, very porous way, in such a way that it is so very difficult to account for every cent that flows into the system. So I'm sorry for saying it is a zero-sum game for Nigeria, but I have to be honest. The next thing that I want us to look at is this. When we say money flows into a system through migration, I was having a discussion with my sister just a short while ago. I said one of my junior brothers from the university that I knew through somebody came to see me yesterday. He came from Institute of Directors, IOD or something like that. Institute of Directors in Nigeria. He was on income of 820,000 naira. He left that income and he migrated. And this is one of the few macroeconomics that we have. He's just 32. But that guy has done so much work on macroeconomics. He's a special consultant for Kenyan government at 32. He has left Nigeria, he's not going back. So, we cannot celebrate remittances. And the reason why we cannot celebrate it is because it creates very terrible skills gap in the sending country. Unfortunately, that is the way it is. Most of our medical doctors that left Nigeria, that they are sending money back home, they are not coming back to Nigeria. Most of the professionals that left Nigeria and sending money back home, they're not thinking of going back to Nigeria. And today, Nigeria has very, very serious skills shortages. I must confirm to you that on a regular basis, especially in academics, they send emails and they ask us if we can recommend some people that work for them virtually. Because most of the skills have left. Essentially, in financial economics and development economics, where I specialize, they've left. And if you do not have a pool of financial economics and development economists, who is going to grow your economy? How do you grow your economy? It is going to be difficult. So, to conclude, I will leave us with this thought. I think remittances can be a source of development trajectory for Nigeria and other emerging economies if we are able to get our financial intermediary right. What do I mean? Banking efficiency. In Africa alone, to transmit money from South Africa to Nigeria via the official mean is very expensive. In the United States, it's even more expensive. And that is the global experience. However, to move money from Britain to anywhere in the world is very cheap because they control the financial system. And most of the apps, most of the financial technology apps, applications that are used today to transmit money, they are developed in Africa. The three leading financial tools, platforms that are designed to transmit money, they are African-based. I particularly know one guy in Namibia that developed one, and he's one of the leading ones. However, African governments do not take ownership. Our governments don't take ownership. Those platforms were developed in Africa. Elon Musk developed PayPal in South Africa. Go and find out. Elon Musk, the first application he developed in his life is PayPal. And he developed it in South Africa. Go and read the history of PayPal. You will not see anything in South Africa. Why? Because our governments do not take ownership. Our governments are too busy with something else. We don't even know what they are busy with. Honestly, we don't. As rich as a country like Nigeria is in resources, in everything, Nigeria, shamefully, is still one of the poorest countries in the world. And you ask yourself, how? How is that possible? Because if you look at the aggregate GDP of Nigeria without the leakages, it is about a third of that of United States. Quote me. It is about a third of that of United States. Where is the money? I thank you.
ẹ bá fún wọn látẹ̀wọ́ ayọ̀. Bàbá ológun fọ̀ lédè èèbó ẹ má jẹ́ ń ṣèdè èèbó ẹ gbà mí ẹ má jẹ́ ká gbagbára lọ́rùn mi ẹ ṣàfẹ́ kó bá mi kán lè gbagbádá yìí. Ẹ ṣeun gbogbo ẹ̀yin tẹ́ wà níkàlẹ̀ yìí. Ká tó máa tẹ̀síwájú lórí ètò yìí, àwọn ọmọ ẹgbẹ́ kọ̀ọ̀kan ti dé láti àwọn ìlú yíká orílẹ̀-èdè South Africa. Mo rí àwọn ọmọ ẹgbẹ́ Ekuruleni pé wọ́n ti wà nínú ilé. Mo kí yín káàbọ̀. Àwọn ọmọ ẹgbẹ́ láti KZN Durban plane náà gbé wá. Mo kí yín o, mo kí yín káàbọ̀. Mo kí ọ̀kan lára àwọn ọmọ ẹgbẹ́, àwọn náà ti dé ó ṣe díẹ̀. Táíwò, mo kí yín, ẹ káàbọ̀ sórí ètò yìí. Gbogbo ọmọ ẹgbẹ́ pátápátá ní gbogbo ibi tẹ́ ti wá náà láti kí yín káàbọ̀ sórí ètò yìí. Ní kúkúrú, nǹkan tí bàbá wa sọ nínú ọ̀rọ̀ àpilẹ̀sọ, òun náà ni ọ̀nà tí à ń gbà tí a ṣe ń fi owó ránṣẹ́ sílé. Nínú ọ̀rọ̀ wọn, wọ́n jẹ́ ká mọ̀ wípé lórílẹ̀‐èdè Nàìjíríà, owó táwa tá a wà lẹ́yìn odi tá a fi ránṣẹ́ sílé kì í ṣe owó kékeré. Ṣùgbọ́n owó òun ò yọ torí pé owó yìí bíi kó wọlé kí wọ́n lọ fi ra gúgúrú àbí kí wọ́n fi ra gàárì. Bọ̀dá mi ebi ń pa mí ẹ bá ń sẹ́ndì owó ẹ má jẹ́ kí ebi ó pa mí kù òun làwa ń sẹ́ndì ńlé. Ṣùgbọ́n tẹ bára wọn Somalia, Ethiopia ẹ rí i pé owó tí àwọn ń rí wọ́n fi ń ranra wọn lọ́wọ́ wọ́n sì ń lò ó láti dá padà sínú ọrọ̀ ajé wọn ó sì ń ran ìlú wọn lọ́wọ́ ó ń ran ọrọ̀ ajé wọn lọ́wọ́. Ṣùgbọ́n àwa ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ owó tá a fi ń ránṣẹ́ lé ẹ bá ń ra búlọ́ọ̀kù o ẹ bá ń ra sìmẹ́ǹtì o ẹ bá ń kọ́júlé méjì o tó bá dọ̀sẹ̀ tí ń bọ̀ wọ́n ó tún fowó mi ránṣẹ́ o. A fi àwọn owó ìránṣẹ́ sílé lọ́nà tá a fi gbà láti máa rí ọrọ̀ àbí èrè lórí wọn. Òun náà ni ọ̀rọ̀ àpilẹ̀sọ yìí òun ló dúró lé lórí. Mo dúpẹ́ lọ́wọ́ bàbá wa ẹ ṣeun ẹ kú àtótónu látàárọ̀ àgbà yóò dálẹ̀ ẹ pẹ́ fún wa lágbára Èdùmàrè àgbà ò sì ní tán lórílẹ̀. Bàbá ológun fọ̀ ṣé ẹ̀yin náà ó sọ díẹ̀ ń bẹ̀ torí àwọn kan wà tí ò gbọ́ èdè tí mò ń sọ yìí.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Oluson. Just when our guest speaker was about to come on to deliver the lecture, some of our special friends also walked in as well from the eastern part of Nigeria. Igbo Kwenu. Can you just be on your feet as we recognize and appreciate them, please? Thank you so much for identifying with us, for coming to grace this occasion. We appreciate you. Thank you so much. I think the next item on our agenda is the Ewi rendition. Is it ready? All right, okay. Can you just come up quickly to deliver your Ewi? Thank you.
Ewi kò í ṣèdè Òyìnbó kì í sì ṣèdè Haúsá èdè Yorùbá ni. Yorùbá nìkan ló léwì, Yorùbá ló ń kéwì, Yorùbá ló lóríkì. Ní gbogbo ẹ̀dá tí ń bẹ lórí ilẹ̀ àgbáyé pátápátá kò sí ẹ̀dá tó lóríkì, Yorùbá nìkan ló lóríkì. Ní báyìí ẹ jẹ́ n kí káàbọ̀ ọ̀kan lára àwọn ọmọ Yorùbá tó ń ṣe takuntakun lórílẹ̀‐èdè South Africa tí wọ́n fi ewì dá wa lára yá.
Mo kí gbogbo ẹ̀yin ládéládé ẹ̀yin lóyè pé a kú ọdún àṣà tí à ń ṣe lénìí lọ́lọ́ Ọlọ́run ọba ilẹ̀ Oòduà gbé wa. Àwọn alálẹ̀ wọ́n máa bá wa tún ilẹ̀ Oòduà ṣe o. Èdè mi, àṣà mi, Yorùbá kò ní tọwọ́ mi dúró. Èdè mi, àṣà mi, Yorùbá kò ní tọwọ́ mi dúró. Èdè mi, àṣà mi, Yorùbá kò ní tọwọ́ mi dúró. Ẹ múra ọmọ Odùduwà kí àṣà Yorùbá kò má tọwọ́ yín bàjẹ́. Ẹ dìde ẹ̀yin àyíṣà o kí àṣà Yorùbá kò má tọwọ́ yín bàjẹ́. Èdè mi, àṣà mi Yorùbá kò ní tọwọ́ mi dúró. Ẹ jẹ́ ká rántí ohun àdáyébá tiwantiwa ẹgbẹ́ lárugẹ. Àṣà Yorùbá ẹ má ṣe tánù o, àṣà wa dára. Ẹ gbàṣà lárugẹ, ẹ má jẹ́ kàṣà bàbá wa rà máyé. Àbọ̀rúbọyè ikọ̀ máa wò ẹ má jẹ́ kàṣà bàbá wa rà máyé. Torí pé ẹ̀gbọ́n ta ló nàṣà nílé ayé, Yorùbá ló nàṣà jù nílé ayé. Àṣà Yorùbá gbayì púpọ̀ ní gbogbo àgbáláyé. Ẹ mójú tàṣà Yorùbá o, ẹ má ṣe jẹ́ kó bàjẹ́ o. Ẹ mójú tàṣà Yorùbá o, ẹ má ṣe jẹ́ kó bàjẹ́ o. Aláǹtẹ̀rẹ̀ o, àǹtẹ̀rẹ̀. Àǹtẹ̀rẹ̀, aláǹtẹ̀rẹ̀ o. Adé mo tún ti dé. Mo ṣe bá akọ́dá. Mo ṣe bá àlejò. Ìbà fọ́kùnrin. Ìbà fóbìnrin. Aláǹtẹ̀rẹ̀ o. Wọ́n ní ètò tó jí tí ó kólú igbó yóò fẹsẹ̀ kọ́kùn ọdẹ níbẹ̀ ńlá gbọ̀nrín tó jí tó kólú ọ̀dàn. Ọdẹ ni ó pa á, alápatà ni ó sì gbé lọ. Káyé ó yẹ mí mo wá wárí, kára ó tù mí mo sì wá wòde. Torí ọmọdé kẹ̀yìn jíṣẹ́ fún bàbá rẹ̀ kò jìyà. Ìbà lọ́wọ́ Ọlọ́run Elédùmarè, ọba àkọ́dá ayé. Ọlọ́run ọba mi, ọba ńlá, ọba tó jọ lórí ẹbí wa lọ. Òkìkí ọ̀kàkà, ọba alágbára tí ò kì í ṣàìsàn. Ìbà lọ́wọ́ bàbá mi kábíyèsí, Ọ̀jájá ẹlẹ́ẹ̀kejì, ọmọ ayíkítí ogun, ètírí ogun, ọmọ òkè lẹ́yìn ìmọ̀ rẹ̀. Ó táyé sọ bí igbá, ọ̀ní ìdíwọ̀n gòkè ìsìnrìn tó ní ẹrù ṣẹ̀gì ń pa ọmọ ọlọ́ngbẹ́rán ni wọ́n. Àyàmọ̀ parakọ́gi, eégún níta òjège, òrìṣà lọ́nà òbòdò. Mo kí bá mi orí adé tí ń bẹ níkàlẹ̀. Bàbá, mo súnmọ́ ba níwọ̀n ebè kan, mo jìnnà sọ́ba níwọ̀n ebè mẹ́fà. Torí arọ́bàfín lọ́ba ń pa. Bàbá, ìbà ni mo ṣe, adé ọmọdé ń ṣèbà. Bàbá mi kábíyèsí ooo. Ọba Babátúndé Adétòkunbọ̀. Bàbá, mo kí yín ní àbẹ̀hún, ẹ kú kó lè dáa. Ilẹ̀ Yorùbá ò ní bàjẹ́, ẹ máa bá mi sàmì ní wìtìwìtì. Ẹ̀yin àṣìṣà, bí kí ò bá parapọ̀, wọn ò lè nílé lórí. Mo fẹ́ kó yé gbogbo ẹ̀yin èèyàn tí ń bẹ níbí. Oyin finúkonú ló jẹ́ kí wọ́n lè mú afárá wọn. Ọ̀rọ̀ ìṣọ̀kan Yorùbá ó kàn yín, ó kàn mí, ó kàn gbogbo ọmọ ẹgbẹ́ àyíṣà. Tẹ̀sìn kọ́, tọ̀làjú kọ́. Gbogbo ẹ̀yin ènìyàn tí ń gbọ́ mi nílẹ̀ yìí, tẹ́jọ́ ọmọ Yorùbá, kí ló dé náà? Táwa ń gbàgbé ohun tó jẹ́ tiwa. Ẹ wá torí ìwé, ọ̀làjú, ẹ̀sìn àti pé ẹ̀ ń bẹ nílẹ̀ òkèèrè, ẹ wá fẹ́ sọ ohun tó jẹ́ ti Yorùbá nù. Ẹ rí ọmọ Yorùbá tó bú àbàjà, tó bú kẹ́kẹ́, bẹ́ẹ̀ bá lọ sọ́dọ̀ wọn, tẹ́ ní bàbá, mo kí yín o, ẹ̀ ǹlẹ́ o, tẹ́ dọ̀bálẹ̀. Àwa pé, how are you? How are you doing? What can I do for you? Bẹ́ẹ̀ ọmọ Yorùbá tó bú àbàjà, kí ló dé ná? Kí ló ń ṣe wá sí wọn fi ṣe wá ni? Gbogbo ọmọ Yorùbá ẹ jẹ́ kájọ ṣe àpérò. Tẹ́nitẹ́ni tẹ̀kí sàǹtà àtàn. Ẹ jẹ́ pọ́n tí ń ṣe ti Yorùbá lé. Ẹ yẹ ká yí pé fake life mọ́. Ẹ jẹ́ ká rántí ohun tó jẹ́ tiwa tó jẹ́ tàwọn bàbá wa. Ẹ má ṣe jẹ́ ká sọ àṣà Yorùbá nù. Mo sọ lọ́dún tó lọ, pé kò sí bẹ́ẹ̀ ti di gágá tẹ́ ẹ di gúgú tó tẹ́ bá wá kóòtù aṣọ òyìnbó à ní ẹ wá wo ọmọ kí tí ń ṣe bí àwa ìṣèyàn ṣẹlẹ̀kọ èèyàn dúdú tó ń tẹ táyì mọ́rùn tẹ́ni tẹ́kítẹ́jì sàtàtàn ọmọ Yorùbá ọmọ odù tó dá ìwà ọmọ káàrọ̀ oòjíire ẹ jẹ́ ká ná ní àṣà wa àṣà Yorùbá gbayì ó gbẹ̀yẹ àní ẹ má ṣe jẹ́ ká ta àṣà Yorùbá nù ẹ wo nǹkan kan lọ nílẹ̀ Yorùbá lọ́wọ́lọ́wọ́ o ìyẹn lógún ẹ̀sìn táwọn àkàn fẹ́ gbé wọ àwùjọ wa gbogbo ládéládé gbogbo ẹ̀yin bàbá mi tí ń bẹ níkàlẹ̀ ọ̀rọ̀ yìí kàn yín o torí Yorùbá pọ̀ wọ́n ní bí ayé bá tójú àwa bàjẹ́ àìmọ̀ wàá wù gbogbo ẹni tí ń bẹ nínú ayé ni ọmọdé ní tún léṣe àgbà ní tòlú ní Yorùbá wí gbogbo ẹ̀yin àgbààgbà tí ń bẹ nílẹ̀ Yorùbá ẹ lọ sí àpérò kò yẹ kí ilẹ̀ Yorùbá máa dàrú lójú ẹ̀yin àgbààgbà yìí kí lẹ fẹ́ fi sílẹ̀ dàwọ́ ọmọ mo ń bi yín ni gbogbo ẹ̀yin bàbá mi tí ń bẹ níkàlẹ̀ bẹ́ẹ̀ bá délé ẹ bá mi sọ fún bàá mi Ọ̀ọ̀nìrìṣà olórí aládé gbogbo pélé Yorùbá ò ní dàrú o lọ́la gbogbo àwọn àgbààgbà tí ń bẹ lótù Ifẹ̀ agbè mi ṣe tán ó fẹ́ máa lọ lé ìdáró àlùkò mi ṣe tán ó fẹ́ máa lọ lé ìkòsùn lékèlékè mi ṣe tán ó fẹ́ máa lọ lú Ìkẹfún ẹ̀jẹ̀ máa lọ lé bàbá tó bí mi a kì í ṣe é mọ̀ wọ́n lè bí yín pé ta ló kọrin wì lẹ́ẹ̀kan àti ọmọdé ni èmi lọ́mọ olódò kan òtúrẹ́ ọmọ olódò kan òtúrà odò tó sàn wéréke ìlàrẹ́ ni mí ọmọ àtẹ̀lóògùn ọmọ akẹrin nílàrẹ́ òṣòmùṣòmù yàrá àgbó ọmọ ẹ̀wọ̀n tó bà lérí àpáta tó bà lé gbòǹgbò tàgbọ́n yìí. ẹ jẹ́ ká rántí ohun àdáyébá tiwantiwa ẹgbẹ́ lárugẹ àṣà Yorùbá ẹ má ṣe dànù o àṣà wa dára ẹ pàṣà lárugẹ ẹ má jẹ́ ká ṣà bàbá wa rámáyé.
adé ọmọ adé ìlàrẹ́ ọmọ àtẹ̀lóògùn yégbè ọmọ olókè méjì takọtagbo ojú òní tí ọ ìbàjẹ́ òní bá ọ ṣé ẹ rí àṣà àti ìṣe Yorùbá kò sí ní tó dáa tó lẹ́ẹ̀kan gbà tí mò ń sọ̀rọ̀ mo ní tí n bá ṣe èbó kẹ gbàgbádá lọ́rùn mi mo tọrọ gáfárà lọ́wọ́ gbogbo Yorùbá tí ń bẹ́lé n ó sọ èbó ìdí rẹ̀ ni wípé ológunfọ̀ mi sáré jáde wọ́n ń padà bọ̀ wọ́n láwọn iṣẹ́ kan tó ń ṣe lọ́wọ́lọ́wọ́ tí wọ́n fi dé wọ́n mọ̀ sọ èdè èbó díẹ̀díẹ̀ sínú ọ̀rọ̀ yìí ẹ má bínú mo tọrọ gáfárà lọ́wọ́ gbogbo ọmọ Yorùbá mo sì tọrọ gáfárà lọ́wọ́ bàbá wa orí adé àtò sọ èdè èbó níwájú yín torí àwọn ọmọ ilẹ̀ yìí tí wọ́n gbọ́ èdè wa káwọn náà lè bá rí pé àwọn náà wà nínú àwùjọ wa òun la fi sọ èdè òyìnbó sí wọn ẹ ṣeun kábíyèsí. All right, thank you very much, everyone. Please, if you want to use the bathroom, especially for men, this way you go through the stairs, first floor. Please, the one there is for the ladies. For the men, use this side. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you so much. All right, let's quickly move on our program because we have a lot of things to do. And like I said, I'm going to be doing the two at the same time. All right, let's go to special guest from the mission. We have one of our father in the house that is representing the mission for this great occasion. And give me opportunity to invite to the podium the representative of the mission here in South Africa to give us the speech from all our missions. Thank you. Please, a round of applause for him, please. Wọ́n fi àsìkò yìí pé bàbá wa tí wọ́n ń ṣojú ilé ìjọba lórílẹ̀‐èdè South Africa tí wọ́n sì jẹ́ agbẹnusọ ìjọba láti wá sọ̀rọ̀ àpilẹ̀sọ pàtàkì tí wọ́n ní fún wa láti ọ̀dọ̀ àwọn ilé ìjọba wa lórílẹ̀‐èdè South Africa. Ẹ ṣeun.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Kábíyèsí sir. Professor, thank you, sir. Thank you, Ma. I'm here to represent the High Commissioner of Nigeria to South Africa and the Consul General of the Federal Republic of Nigeria in Johannesburg. I'm a Yoruba person, precisely from Ekiti State. If you are from Ekiti, let me see your hands up. Yoko. It's difficult to say anything after the keynote speaker had delivered his speech. And I honestly have nothing to contest in whatever he presented. However, in line with the renewed hope agenda of the present government of His Excellency Bola Ahmed Tinubu, we want to advise and encourage and urge that remittance remains one of the key and fundamental parts of our national development. You recall that the prices of crude oil is up and down these days, so no government can rely on that. But remittance has been identified by the federal government of Nigeria as a key player to addressing some of the challenges we face in Nigeria. We have infrastructural deficit. Unemployment rate is very high. Poverty is also very high. And it's only when we come together as a nation and we are determined to address these challenges headlong, that's when we are going to have a better society. Just 2 days ago, during the inaugural session of the Federal Executive Council, and the Federal Minister of Finance, Mr. Wale Edun, was briefing the nation of the outcome of the meeting. He specifically said remittances is a very key player to addressing some of our challenges. So we want to encourage us. Don't let us lose hope in Nigeria. Nigeria has a better future if we only come together to play our part. And beyond that, I want to also congratulate the Yorubas in South Africa. Can we clap our hands together, please? You are doing marvelously well. When I say marvelously well, it's not because I'm a Yoruba person, but from all indications, you are doing marvelously well. You have been representing us in all fields of human endeavor, and we are very, very proud of you. We encourage you to sustain that momentum by being good ambassadors of our great country and by showcasing the very positive sides of our great country. So on behalf of the High Commissioner and the Consul General, I want to say congratulations to the President of Ayid and his team, and I wish you all the best. Thank you so much.
Ẹ bá fún wọn látẹ̀wọ́ ayọ̀. Wọ́n nílé ìtutù pọ̀ jù, wọ́n nílé ìtutù pọ̀ jù. N ò mọ̀dí tí ilé ìfi tutù. Yemite, ẹ bá ń pe Yemite kí Yemite wọlé. Ẹ jẹ́ àfijọ́ rasẹ̀ díẹ̀. Ilé ìtutù pọ̀ jù. Òní ọjọ́ ayọ̀ ni, òní ọjọ́ ọjọ́ ni, òní ọjọ́ ẹ̀yẹ ni. And we are here to celebrate. Please, I want us to put on our happy mode. Please, I know it's month end, it's beginning of the month. People are thinking about how am I going to pay my rent. Please, let's put that aside now. Let's enjoy ourselves. We are here to enjoy ourselves. Before I put Yemite back, let me quickly call one of our community leader doing great in our community. One of the people that make the Yorubas be more popular in South Africa. Allow me to welcome Professor Sunday Ojo. Professor Sunday Ojo is the chairman of this occasion and is the member of all of Paladin. Please, sir, it is your turn to give us the welcome address. Ẹ bá fún wọn látẹ̀wọ́ ayọ̀, ẹ bá fún wọn látẹ̀wọ́ ayọ̀. Ṣé ẹ rí tí gbogbo ọ̀rọ̀ yìí bá ti kúrò lẹ̀, á wàá ṣí ijó bolẹ̀, á ṣí fàájì bolẹ̀, yóò wá máa dún, yóò máa dùn. Ṣé ẹ rí nǹkan tá a fi kó fàájì wá lónìí? Ọkọ̀ akóyọyọ ni. Ṣé ẹ rí nígbà tó ń jálẹ̀ níwájú tá ń bẹ̀ ń ẹ̀rù Ọlọ́run gan ba èmi gan. Ẹ̀yẹ kan rí dájú wípé ẹ fọkàn yín balẹ̀. Yóò dùn lálẹ́ yìí, gbọ́ngbọ́n yóò kàn sí i. Alárè ó jẹ̀gbá ní nǹkan ó gbé nǹkan ránu. Bàbá wa, ẹ ṣeun sà.
Your Royal Majesty, Oba Babatunde Adeti Okunbo, Awosile, the legacy of Egesi Kingdom. I know you are here representing our Oni of Ife, and we know that your presence has made great for us. Your Excellency, the Ambassador, we are grateful that you are here. And my learned colleagues on the table, Prof. Usman, Professor, and Assistant, representing Professor Yusuf, is well represented here. And of course, our chair of all of Paladin, you are very much welcome here. In my chairman address, I would like just to ruminate on a few things related to our heritage, in particularly looking at the subject matter of what we call our ethno-linguistic heritage, our language, our culture. This is a Heritage Day. It's not just something we just have as an event, but something to celebrate what we have. And you can see the beauty of our clothing. Soon you have food served, and so many displays have been shown, showing that we have a very rich heritage. Is it our works of arts? Is it our herbal medicine? I was very happy to meet Alhaji Yusuf today, doing marvelously on that. I was very happy also to meet our colleague, Patrick, who is working on our languages, there. Is it our textiles? I saw the family here, well-dressed, gaily, the children, the father, the mother wearing, the same thing there. Is it our cuisines? And our music, our child naming, where the Yoruba will say, Uruko man Roma, and Lila man wo, type man soma loruko. These are very philosophical and important part of our culture. Is it our wedding norms? When I see on the internet the wedding taking place in diaspora, still imbibing our culture, doing everything there. Our spirituality, everything is there. Our Omaluabi as a philosophy, and so on and so forth. Now, all these we can look at together and see that we have a very rich heritage. Our culture, of course, is an umbrella term which encompasses our social behavior, our institutions, our norms, which we find in our society, our Yorubaness, we have it there. And as we acquire our culture, learning from generation to generation, we will see that there's beauty in it, a lot we can also contribute to handing over legacy to the coming generation. There's what they call enculturation, which as we progress, our culture will interact with other culture, and it behoves of us as we interact to let our positive aspects of our culture to interact well with others rather than the negative culture of other society, subsuming our own. We must say the fact that our language and our culture, they are anthropologically intertwined. They are very well interconnected. Our Yoruba language, it's a product of our culture. You can see how they are interrelated. It's a vehicle of Yoruba culture. And of course, it's a building block of our Yoruba diversity and living heritage. I have to mention about diversity here. While we have our Yoruba culture, language, we have dialectical diversity, which again extend our culture. I was in Oshu, Natakuma's local government, where I grew up, and we were eating pawpaw. Then our landlady, and Ijesa lady, he was saying, "Omo yo, lao me nigbe gbereje." So we didn't understand what he was saying. He just continued until he come and knock to us. "Omo yo," I say, "lao me nigbe gbereje." Now that's a dialect of Ijesas, which expands the Yoruba culture. As you go to the Ekitis, everything, move like that. Our Yoruba language is the window to our souls as Yoruba people groups. And our unique indigenous knowledge system is embodied in our language. And so on. So for our cultural identity, our language is the reservoir in which is stored most of our cultural wealth. So we cannot discountenance it. And let's say President Mandela mentioned that speak to a man, he will understand. But speak to a man in his language, it goes into his heart because it touches on his cultural heritage. We use our language and culture to understand our environment, to understand our engagement with several other people. Our Yoruba language and culture are key contributors to our dialogue, to reconciliation, tolerance, and peace. Hence, Yoruba language and culture matter for our Yoruba sustainable socio-economic development. However, our youth are being alienated from our language and culture. They are very technology savvy, and we see less of our language and culture on the cyberspace, on the internet. And while we have physical migration, there is virtual migration. You sit at home, all your children are busy on the internet, engaging other languages, other culture. Before you know it, they are captured by other cultures. And we have millions of our children in diaspora now. It's important that we let them imbibe our culture, as it is. I just want to round up in making this address in saying that the fact that the death of Yoruba language and culture is like a burnt library of cultural heritage, embodiment of a people, a loss with socio-psychological effect of losing a people's cultural identity, harboring of socio-economic inferiority complex. When you've lost your own culture, you will feel inferior to others, accompanied with second-class citizen syndrome, and of course, living with second fiddle play mentality. Yoruba language and culture, they lack digital feasibility, and we want that we contribute to, making that our language is available on the internet. Lastly, UNESCO says any language not on the internet is bound to disappear. Our culture, our language must not disappear. Let's contribute to this. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. A round of applause, please. Thank you, and God bless you, sir. All right, the next in our agenda on this program right now is to call the traditional team. That is the second display. So I hope you are ready. Adiomade, is your turn now. Let's go for it. Let's cheer this house up. You guys are not ready. All right. Sorry about this. We have an item that is greetings in Yoruba language. And let me invite Dr. Adeyeye to take that up. Abalata de náà labalata ti máa kí yín ní èdè Yorùbá. Ẹ mọ̀ sí ní ọ̀kan lára àwọn ọmọ Yorùbá tí wọ́n jẹ́ ògbóǹtarìgì nínú èdè Yorùbá sísọ. Bàbá wa, ọkùnrin ètò ìsúnkàn yìí, ẹ bá ń káwọn èèyàn wà lédè Yorùbá.
Mo kí gbogbo wa o. A kú àkókò yìí o. Ẹ kú ìjókòó, ẹ̀yin bàbá àti màmá. Ohun tí a fẹ́ ṣe nísìnyìí, a fẹ́ kájọ wo àwọn ìkíni ní èdè Yorùbá. Greetings in Yoruba language. I want to say this in English to start with. We know that some of us did not even speak Yoruba language at home, talk less of teaching our children to understand the language. So now we want to go through some few Yoruba greetings. But to start with, we call it ìkíni ní èdè Yorùbá. Tí a bá fẹ́ kí wa lédè Yorùbá, a fẹ́ wo àwọn ìsọ̀rí báwo la ṣe ń kí ara wa ní èdè Yorùbá. So orí ìkíni yẹn gbogbo wa a ó jọ bẹ̀rẹ̀. A ó bẹ̀rẹ̀ látorí kábíyèsí wa. A fẹ́ kọ́kọ́ kí wọn. A fẹ́ kí kábíyèsí wa. A fẹ́ kẹ́ gbogbo akájọ wò báwo la ṣe ń kí ọba ní ilẹ̀ Yorùbá. Lẹ́yìn yẹn a wá go through àwọn ìkíni mìíràn tó ṣe pàtàkì tó yẹ ká mọ̀ tó dẹ̀ yẹ kí àwọn ọmọ wa kó mọ̀. Torí náà mo kọ́kọ́ fẹ́ kọ orin yìí wípé kí là ń fọba pé ọba o ọba la ẹ sọ̀rọ̀ o kí là ń fọba pé. Kábíyèsí wà nílẹ̀ o kí là ń fọba pé. Kábíyèsí wà níkàlẹ̀ o ẹ sọ̀rọ̀ o. Bó ní kí là ń fọba pé. Ọba tó dádé owó. Ọba tó wẹ̀wù oyè. Mo ní kí lẹ̀ ń fọba pé ọba o ọba láṣẹ ọba. Mo wá fẹ́ kí gbogbo wa kájọ kí kábíyèsí nísìnyí. Báwo la ṣe ń kí ọba ní ilẹ̀ Yorùbá? Mo mọ̀ pé gbogbo wa la mọ̀. Ẹ̀yin bàbá àti màmá ẹ̀kan náà lájọ lọ o. A dẹ̀ kí ọba wa bá a ṣe ń kí ọba ní ilẹ̀ Yorùbá. Ẹ̀yin bàbá ẹ̀yin màmá tẹ̀ wá ń kalẹ̀ ṣe ti múra lẹ̀. A fẹ́ kí kábíyèsí o. Méní tí n bá ti pé mẹ́ta lákì wọn o. Méní méjì mẹ́ta ó yá o. Kábíyèsí o. Kábíyèsí là ń kí ọba ní ilẹ̀ Yorùbá. Kábíyèsí là ń kí ọba. A kí yín bàbá kábíyèsí o. Kádé pẹ́ lórí kí bàtà pẹ́ lẹ́sẹ̀. Ó yẹ ká kí wọn. Bákan náà ní ilẹ̀ Yorùbá a ní oríṣiríṣi ọ̀nà tá à ń gbà kí àwọn èèyàn. Mo sọ fún ààrẹ ẹgbẹ́ wa, mo ní kán jọ tó bá dé àárín kan lórí ọ̀rọ̀ ìkíni yìí, mo ní kò bá wù mí àwọn tó bá ṣe pàtàkì tán bá akẹsẹ̀já nínú bí ìdánwò ráńpẹ́ tá a fẹ́ ṣe fúnra wa lórí ọ̀rọ̀ ìkíni. Mo ní kò bá wù mí ká fún wọn ní nǹkan, ṣùgbọ́n màá kọ́kọ́ sáré sọ. Tí a bá fẹ́ kí àwọn ènìyàn wa ní ilẹ̀ Yorùbá ìkíni ní ìgbà tàbí àkókò